Have you ever found out the person you trusted most was lying to you? I thought I knew my company, but it turned out our CEO had a secret. As I walked into the office, I saw a new janitor. He was cleaning the floor, but there was something about him that caught my attention. His eyes seemed to hold a deep secret, and his smile was mysterious. I couldn't help but wonder who this man was and what his story was. Suddenly, my colleague whispered to me that the new janitor was very strange and had been asking a lot of questions about the company. I felt a shiver down my spine as I realized that something was off. But how could a janitor be a threat to our company? I decided to keep an eye on him, but I had no idea that my life was about to change forever. The janitor's presence was like a storm cloud, and I was about to get caught in the rain. As the days went by, I found myself noticing the janitor more and more. He was always around, cleaning and fixing things, but he seemed to be watching us too. I started to feel uncomfortable, like I was being spied on. I tried to brush it off, but the feeling only grew stronger. One day, I saw him talking to our CEO, and they seemed to be having a very serious conversation. I wondered what they were discussing, but I couldn't quite hear them. The CEO's expression was stern, and the janitor's eyes seemed to be gleaming with a hidden intensity. I felt a surge of curiosity and decided to investigate further. I started to ask my colleagues about the janitor, but no one seemed to know much about him. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere, and no one had bothered to ask any questions. I was determined to uncover the truth, but I had no idea where to start. The janitor's presence was like a puzzle, and I was eager to find the missing pieces. As I delved deeper into the mystery, I began to notice strange occurrences around the office. Papers would go missing, and important documents would be misplaced. It was as if someone was trying to disrupt our work, but I had no idea who or why. The janitor's smile seemed to haunt me, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was behind it all. I decided to confront him, but as I approached, he looked up at me with an innocent expression. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice low and smooth. I felt a flutter in my chest, and my words caught in my throat. "No, I just wanted to introduce myself," I stuttered. The janitor's eyes seemed to gleam with amusement, and he extended his hand. "I'm Jack," he said, his voice dripping with charm. I took his hand, and as our palms touched, I felt a spark of electricity. It was as if the whole world had come to a standstill, and all that mattered was the touch of his hand. I was taken aback, but I tried to compose myself. "I'm Nguyen Lin," I said, trying to sound casual. Jack's smile grew wider, and he nodded. "Nice to meet you, Nguyen Lin," he said, his voice low and husky. I felt a shiver run down my spine as he pronounced my name, and I knew that I was in trouble. The janitor's touch had awakened something within me, and I couldn't ignore it. As I walked away, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets Jack was hiding. The mystery of the janitor had just begun to unravel, and I was eager to see what other surprises lay in store. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself growing more and more fascinated with the janitor. I would catch glimpses of him around the office, and each time, I felt a flutter in my chest. I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept wandering back to Jack. I started to notice that he was always around, watching and waiting. It was as if he was waiting for something to happen, but I had no idea what. One day, I decided to follow him, to see where he went and what he did. I trailed behind him, trying to be discreet, but he seemed to sense my presence. He turned around, and our eyes met, and for a moment, time stood still. "You're following me," he said, his voice low and husky. I felt a surge of guilt, but I tried to play it cool. I was just going to the break room," I stuttered. Jack's eyes seemed to gleam with amusement, and he nodded. "I'll walk with you," he said, his voice dripping with charm. As we walked, the tension between us grew thicker, and I could feel the air vibrating with electricity. We reached the break room, and Jack pushed open the door. "After you," he said, his voice low and smooth. I stepped inside, and he followed, his eyes never leaving mine. The break room was empty, and the silence was palpable. Jack leaned against the counter, his eyes fixed on me, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Why are you following me?" he asked, his voice low and husky. I tried to think of an excuse, but my mind was a blank. I just wanted to know more about you," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Jack's eyes seemed to gleam with surprise, and he nodded. "I see," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Well, I suppose I can tell you a little bit about myself." He paused, and I felt a surge of anticipation. "But first, you have to promise me one thing," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "You have to promise me that you'll keep an open mind." I nodded, my heart racing with excitement. "I promise," I said, my voice firm. Jack's smile grew wider, and he nodded. "Good," he said, his voice dripping with charm. "Because what I'm about to tell you will change everything." As Jack began to speak, I felt a sense of trepidation. What could he possibly tell me that would change everything? But as he started to reveal his secrets, I realized that nothing could have prepared me for the truth. "I'm not just a janitor," he said, his voice low and smooth. "I'm the CEO's son, and I've been sent to investigate the company." I felt a surge of shock, and my mind reeled with questions. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jack's eyes seemed to gleam with determination. "Because my father suspects that someone is embezzling funds from the company, and he needs someone on the inside to find out who." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the magnitude of the situation. "And you think it's one of us?" I asked, my voice laced with fear. Jack nodded, his expression grim. "I'm afraid so," he said, his voice low and husky. "But I need your help to find out who." I felt a sense of trepidation, but I knew I had to help. I nodded, and Jack's eyes seemed to gleam with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice dripping with charm. As we started to investigate, I realized that nothing was as it seemed. The company was a complex web of secrets and lies, and we were about to unravel it all. The janitor's true identity had been revealed, but the mystery was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. As we delved deeper into the mystery, I found myself growing closer to Jack. We worked together, side by side, and I started to see him in a different light. He was no longer just the mysterious janitor. He was a complex and intriguing person, with a depth and passion that I had never seen before. And as we worked together, I realized that my feelings for him went far beyond mere curiosity. I was falling for him, hard and fast, and I didn't know how to stop it. The mystery of the janitor had turned into a romance, and I was eager to see where it would lead. As the truth finally came to light, I realized that the journey had been just as important as the destination. I had discovered a new side of myself, a side that was brave and determined. And I had found love in the most unexpected place. Jack and I had solved the mystery, and in doing so, we had found each other. The experience had taught me that sometimes, the truth is hidden in plain sight, and that the most unlikely person can hold the key to unlocking it. As I looked into Jack's eyes, I knew that I had found my partner, not just in solving the mystery, but in life. And as we walked out of the office, hand in hand, I knew that our future was bright, and that nothing could ever come between us. The mystery of the janitor had been solved, but the mystery of life was just beginning, and I was eager to see what the future held. I learned that kindness and honesty are the most important values in life, and that sometimes, the person you least expect can be the one who changes your life forever.